problem, and I'll get on to the other thing and make sure we can hear you. Okay, good luck. Let's see.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and give us a minute. We're going to make sure that everything's working properly. If I had people in the chat room, I could ask them, but, I don't. Can you hear me? Or you just...
Lost it, didn't I? Hold on.
Lost what?
The thing behind you, right?
Oh, yeah. We are waiting.
Sorry.
We are placing blocks in. What? Where'd you go?
Died.
Ah, he died.
I died. No spellers.
She got a good one for you, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me.
This is like, usually get out of it. I have to get out of it this way.
And stuff. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going?
You don't sound AI.
Thank you.
It is. You're welcome.
You can hear me there?
Okay, turn it up a little bit. Turn up the thing on the floor.
Yeah. Okay, it's turned up a little bit. But you can hear it, right?
Yeah.
We can't hear it anywhere else, and for whatever reason. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Why it's doing that. To turn this down.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a... Are you in? He's watching.
Yes,
They did for a second. Now they're out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a good lineup for you. I actually went to LA today with my boss to get some stuff done. We stopped by, drove through Skid Row down in LA, and I got footage of that. The homeless problem here is amazing, and even according to him, it looks better than it has in a long time.
That's better?
That's better.
Like, I mean, it used to be just like a street. Like one street.
Yeah, now it's several areas. Well, I mean, my boss talked about one time when he was going through, because he go through about 3 to 5 in the morning with the fish, and he said that he was starting to go, and all of a sudden there was police and somebody else on the street firing back and forth shots, and he had to back his whole trailer in reverse the whole way down the street to get out of there.
What the fuck? That's one way to learn how to back a trailer, I swear.
Yeah. Fast too.
Yeah, especially, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So, I mean, he talked some stories. This was like 20, 30 years ago when he was working, fish and stuff. So, I mean, it's crazy.
You've had an experience, being homeless for like 18 months. And kind of seeing the ins and outs of the quote-unquote mission
in Bakersfield worked.
And I stopped because there was a sign on one of these things that you had videotaped, and I paused it and zoomed in because it says something about like future home of homeless, like it's like another mission thing or something. And it's like,
yeah,
it's right smack in the middle of all that, so maybe it'll be good. But I mean, it's
well, the freeway's there. Like he was saying that most of the freeways used to have homeless people like lined up on the side of the freeway.
I remember that.
And like even within the little areas, and they didn't have any of that when we just went today.
Okay.
It was all clear. So I said that's a big step, in it. But it's like, well, where do those people go though?
Right.
And are there more in Skid Row right now because of the fires?
Exactly.
Did those people get forced out and have to go?
I know that Governor Newsom was really, quote unquote, cracking down on all these places because we're supposed to be hosting the Olympics in 4 years or something.
Yeah, because there was 3 main fires in LA. There was the Palisades fire, which is rich homes. There was, I forgot the other one, but it was also rich. The Rancho or whatever. Yeah. All that was all the rich people. But then you had I think it was the East Fire or whatever, Easton Fire, I think. And it was like normal everyday Joes. And he said that yes, the Palisades and stuff got more attention. But more homes burned.
Well, it was
in the Easton.
Just like in first fire, we lost way more homes and stuff and also the news that you heard about the new like about like Central Valley, everybody had all the expensive homes and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't really care if it's like they don't have the money to.
That's what I was talking. That's what I was talking with him about too. I'm like, yeah, like so the people in power they got the money to do what they want with
For
it.
the most part, yeah.
Yeah, the most part. Some might not, but for the most part they do. And he agreed. He's like, yes.
I mean,
You know, and he's like, these other ones, the average Joes, they don't have the money. You know, they don't have insurance for sure because fire insurance is almost impossible here in California.
It's crazy to me because it used to be a requirement that you have that if you lived in this units or had a mortgage or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, it's insane. You know, it's like we had a whole thing with Governor Newsom here. There was that the whole diversity thing, which I think is part of the problem for why the fires were so bad.
I didn't really get into that.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. Yeah, what's the median like property taxes?
I'm not sure. I mean, depending on where, LA is large. I mean, we were through several areas that was LA today. You know, it's really amazing.
Holy shit. The median, okay, the average of the median homeowner pays $5,000 a year.
Well, you saw my dad too.
Yeah,
He was sick. Yeah.
When we think of it, it was like it's like 3,000 or something.
Yeah. Thank God ours is what it is.
No, and that's bad enough.
Yes.
That's crazy to me. You don't even get any land.
No. Well, and I mean, it's crazy because I don't know if I got any from my earlier footage or my pictures, but when we were on the 5, they're building hotels, apartments, literally on the cliff. It's facing the freeway. That's your view. There's some already built, and they're building more, and it's like.
So I think there was some videos, yeah.
And they'll sell it.
Yeah. And people will buy it.
Yeah. You know, it amazes me.
What the hell? Yeah, I think there might be some of that earlier in there. I think I left it in. So
yeah. So, all right, we're going to get to the footage that I did first of Skid Row, the different streets of Skid Row, the damage that's done now. I mean, it's really, really something else. I did the best I could as videotaping. I do eventually, that I was talking with my wife about here, I do eventually want to go and do a walking thing there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be pretty dangerous, and that's why it'll only be me going and doing it because I don't want to chance anybody else, but I want to go and try and talk to some of them.
Yeah, sure.
And try to see what I can do. I was thinking maybe make sandwiches up for some of them.
Yeah.
Do something, you know. So that maybe I can, you know, earn in with them to get some words.
So you kind of know. I mean,
yeah. I've been I know. Okay. Let's get this presented up. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is from earlier today. This was around 2 or 2 o'clock when I was over there. So I just got back a while ago, tired from it all, but I wanted to get this to you guys. So I know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I was just saying this should be fine to talk through. But what I was looking at to begin with on Cooper was the market, and then it was showing the different sales points. The big area. We'll start to get to some of the homeless places here. We were just trying to get there. He was trying to remember the streets to go. Did you see the Jacket Candy?
Yeah.
The big old corporation there. It's crazy.
Jack.
Yeah. And he said each of these buildings, these windows here, that were covered on that building, were sales windows before. You know, where people were sitting there waiting to sell their goods.
Oh my god.
That was the RV street. Then you got all the tents. I mean, the areas were just piled.
And they want to talk about a couple of trailers or cars here.
Yeah. I mean, this was my first time going to Skid Row. I've never seen this area.
I have seen it's in a different city, but just not here.
I mean, some of the areas we went were really shady, and I was like, oh crap. But really, I'm not worried with who I was with at the time. Yeah, it really is. I mean, to see this much. And I mean, it's amazing that they leave them alone.
Right.
That was downtown LA. All those buildings. They've got a World Trade Center there too.
Yeah, they do. They have one.
I guess. Now here's one of the more busier sections. All of those are homeless people standing around. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Wow. But a lot of these people here, they're like the Howard Party TikTok. We're going for like $5 to $8 in these areas. Can you imagine living on that much money for some small place, a whole family in a small apartment? No. And yeah, all the different RVs. Town Street, I think you said, is one of the main ones that hosts most. Look at all those RVs there.
Yeah.
The mayor of Lancaster is facing some heat for what he said.
Hold on. So yeah, that was my footage, ladies and gentlemen. That's, I mean, it's amazing what you can see, what you can get. You know, and it's like all these people. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of them were veterans. There are some, as I was talking with my boss about, but there are some that there is no changing. They don't want to change, and that's the way that they live. I get that. A lot of other people you cannot help. There is no helping.
That's like the Matt Walsh that I have on there. It's
Yeah.
about the people that were like just completely ungrateful. They say they have more freedom on the streets. It's like because they want to do their drugs and live illegally and not have any like responsibilities and stuff. So
there are those out there. I get that, but when you have so many veterans on the streets because the VA just drops them, not wanting to care for them anymore. You know, it's like the military used them, and now, well, we don't care about them anymore. I mean, it's very common. I have seen several people talk to several military people that were, one I'm sure is dead by now. He was in bad shape when I knew him. I was helping take care of him. He was just bad. I walked in on him a couple of times, and he had cut his foot open on glass because he dropped something. He was so stoned.
you would often blame it on being mugged or
Yeah.
target. I'm not really sure which, maybe a little bit of both.
But yeah, I mean, several times stuff like that happened. I mean, with him. So I mean, it's just sad to see the state that these people can be in, and I wish that that we would step up. And I mean, maybe Trump will. I don't know.
It's interesting because it looks like down there, it's unfortunately like a bunch of people of color.
Yeah, it is.
In our area in Bakersfield, it's mostly
whites. Yeah, for sure.
It's like an extremely lopsided demographic here because they're usually like that's figure types.
Yeah.
Hillbillies, and it's one of those things.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that was the footage that I got. Like I said, now we got a couple more to go over because these fit the demographic straight up, and yeah, this one's from a couple of days ago, and this is from LA, right? Lancaster, yes.
It is because the innocent. That's what you're talking about. And the crazy thing to say.
So let's sit back and listen to what they have.
At a council meeting on how to handle the homeless issue, he suggested give them all fentanyl.
Spoke to Fox 11 about those comments. First, here's what he said at the meeting.
But talking about homeless, it sounds like you want to kind of enclose all these homeless people in one territory. And I don't.
What I want to do is
and
give
I
them
don't
free
think-
fentanyl. I mean, that's what I want to do.
Do what?
I want to give them free fentanyl. You know?
I can't understand what you're saying. You wanted to get them what?
I want to give them all the fentanyl they want. That's what I want.
Mayor Rex Paris also says he believes the people of Lancaster stand by him. There's a reason why he's been elected 6 times.
I'm assuming you're talking about a meeting that occurred over a month and a half ago, where we were attempting to move the homeless population to a abandoned golf course and use it as a camping ground. And the people that lived near it were obviously not happy with that. During the course of the meeting, I think I did say that if it were up.
Now, I do have to say, I mean, an idea like that does work best. Moving them and giving them a place to be makes it so there's less issues. There was another show that we watched, and I'm trying to remember who it was or what it was. I think it was on YouTube, but it was just a documentary on one of the stations that we watch. But remember, they were taking over the park. and this guy was going and cleaning everything up, and then they said that the town next to them, like, got a lot, had it so that the homeless population was on the lot. They could use and do whatever the hell they wanted there. If they were anywhere else, they could get arrested. But all the services were there for them. They had showers.
Right. I know that we were talking about that being like a really good idea. I don't know if they ever like found somebody who was actually going to do it or not, but I was thinking that would be the ideal thing.
Yeah, because like I said, one of the shows that we watched had something.
Yeah, because people were starting to like damn warriors out there were starting to like talk about it being like concentration camp and all this crap.
But I mean, I think that's honestly one of the best things that you can do.
I mean, honestly, it should be homeless run as well.
Yeah,
It's like
homeless run.
To maintain it.
And then you give them the chance to work.
And then they build the actual community where they actually have some kind of value.
Dr. Phil.
Is it Dr. Phil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't use that.
Right.
But yeah, that's what it was on. It was on the homeless thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember now. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Did they actually ever go along with that? Or was that just his idea?
No. The different town down the road had done that, and it worked. And so they're like, why can't we do that? Because they tried, and people were like throwing a fit or doing this. Yeah.
So that was dangerously close to being concentration camp.
Yeah.
All it would is, I guess, but if it helps people, then
yeah, exactly.
Up to me, I'd be giving them fentanyl. But I made it very clear I was talking about the criminal element that were let out of the prisons that have now become 40 to 45% of what's referred to as the homeless population.
All right, see, that point coming out of his mouth is just plain dumb. Saying, oh, it's all the fentanyl, pretty much stating he wants to kill him. That's what that means. And it's like saying something like that is just dumb. I mean, you have good ideas, and then people just go and blow it over with something very stupid. I mean,
now that it's kind of getting close to being
yeah.
It's like, I understand your frustration.
No, you don't. Sure they have, yeah. A lot of people need to hit rock bottom, and unfortunately for some, rock bottom's death. It happens quite frequently, honestly. But there are those who will hit that point, and they'll send them the other way, and that's it. It's life-changing. A lot of it is spirituality, too. You need to find your path in life.
With those missions, it's such a lot of shit because they don't actually give you any kind of make sense or
No.
what they say. So you need to have counseling and stuff, but they don't actually talk about anything deep. They don't like get to the heart of it.
Well, it's like the mission that I stayed at in Bakersfield. It had the homeless side, and then it had the drug rehab side, and it was called Genesis. Okay, so you had the main population stayed down, and then there was a couple houses and an upstairs bunk area that Genesis stayed in. And it was like a 6-month program, and they could not leave.
Oh, okay.
They were stuck on premises. So they did their thing.
That's maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
But it was Christian based.
Yeah.
And it's like that just
It doesn't hit for everybody.
No, it doesn't, and that's part of the problem.
So they should have like meditation services, Buddhism,
Yeah.
Available, different sorts of
Exactly.
things. Because a lot of people have had bad experiences with Christianity, especially modern Christianity, and they like instantly bristle at it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was always like kind of like really frustrated when you were dealing with AA and everything too, because it's like, dude,
I know they're very much.
Christian oriented, even though they say it's power and all this stuff is still pushed away.
Yeah, it is.
And then, like, the program isn't the same as it used to be.
No.
I've read that really good. And if it was like that, then it would be today that are coming out of it. Staying sober.
Yes.
So, it's progressive, I guess you could say now.
Yeah, that's the word to call it.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings.
No.
It's okay, just release this, you got it to be okay, because it doesn't work unless that's not what you're preaching. You're supposed to have faith, and faith is supposed to replace that.
Yes.
Not coffee, not Coke, not whatever else it is, but it's always this excuse.
Exactly. AA is just, it's literally, you better follow this path. You better go to these meetings. You better do this. You better do that. You never drink again. You never. No, you aren't. So that you cannot say that you heal because you can never heal. You'll always be the alcoholic. You just have drinks in your day, and it's like, okay, but you can make the steps to where the reason you are doing it is no longer there. And once you do that, then it doesn't matter. Exactly. That's a big thing. Yeah. Like we drink every now and again. Literally, not often. Yeah. And there's no need for us to.
And we did a drink like Irish Street.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just
now it's just for like spiritual.
Like equinox and stuff.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
They are responsible for most of our robberies, most of our rapes, and at least half of our murders. There is nothing that we can do for these people. Lancaster has the most innovative homeless solutions of any city in America. We're very proud of it. We can take care of a lot of people, but I'm talking about the people that refuse those services. The people that want to camp near your homes so that they can burglarize them at night. The people that accost you in the store parking lots and intimidate you into giving them money. We call that robbery in a sane society. Quite frankly, I wish the president would give us a purge, because we do need to purge these people. Now, is it harsh? Of course it's harsh, but it's my obligation as the mayor of the city of Lancaster to protect the hardworking families that live there. And I am no longer able to do it. The sheriff's department is 70 deputies down in our city. The sheriff does not enforce the laws against, if it's the homeless population, because of fear of federal lawsuits. It's an untenable situation, and I'm open to any solution. But I want these people out of our city. Well, I don't think anybody took me literally. In fact, it's so easy to get fentanyl on our streets today that it wouldn't have made any difference if we did give it away. But no, I don't regret saying it. I'm happy that we're focusing the attention on an aspect of this problem that nobody seems to want to look at. These people are killing our citizens. Not a lot of them, but some of them. They have no respect for law and order. They think nothing of kicking in your back doors at night. And the reason I know that is they kicked in my back door on 2 occasions. And I'm the mayor in a gated community with more than a few security options. It's a problem that is endangering the lives of our citizens. And I think we should treat it that way. I mean, that's why in Lancaster, you can get a gun permit in 2 weeks. We have the most advanced homeless center in America. I mean, it'll accommodate hundreds of people. They can work up to living in an apartment that's better than any apartment I ever lived in when I was going to school. The services there deal with their drug issues, deal with their medical issues, deal with their psychological issues. The people I'm talking about are the ones that refuse to go there. Let's quit lumping all of the homeless into one category, because they're not. There are a significant number of them that are criminals that have no desire to work. In my religion, the Lord says, if you don't work, you don't eat. Now, what does that mean when you take it to its logical conclusion? We should not be accommodating people who simply don't want to work. I think that my constituents in Lancaster know exactly what I mean and know exactly that I am unwilling to accommodate criminals. And that's why they have reelected me 6 times.
This is I think, quite
I mean, that guy's admirable for his thing. At least he sticks to it. At least he says what he means. I mean, that you got to give him credit there.
And he doesn't backtrack and go, oh, no, that's not what I meant at all.
No. And it's like, yeah, there is a big problem with the violent criminals and stuff. And the main problem is the laws. The laws got so lax that the criminals said, well, we'll take the punishment for doing this.
And the problem is we can't just go and do the no. I need Creole and I need you can't just go and do the purging and stuff yourself, because if they were supposed to be purged,
they would be.
Like you said, the good Lord would have done it already,
Yep.
So it's you can't just go and say shit like that, because it's not up to us.
No, it's not.
But I like that though. At least he's not backing down on it. At least he's
exactly.
I said what I said. And
yeah, he's really good on that part.
Okay.
But it's just not the right way to go about it completely. I mean, you can't.
You can't say those things, and it's you gotta help the ones that you can, and then make precautions. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Make precautions against the ones that you can't help. And
exactly. All right, now we got Matt Walsh. It's a good one. It's more reason with these homeless people and why
people
they're
have
an issue.
Yeah. Okay, one last thing. I need you to empty out this water for me.
revealing footage that's been circulating. It's from apparently an Instagram account that I guess goes around and films stuff like this, people kind of living their lives. And here we have a couple of homeless people who are no longer homeless technically because they were given free public housing. And it's just a short clip of them, it seems shortly after they moved into this public housing arrangement. And this is how they reacted to it. This is how they are responding to being taken off the street, rescued, you'd think, from this life of vagrancy. But here's how they feel about it.
I don't want to be in government housing. This is Isabella Towers, an apartment complex in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's just terrible.
And it's just too small.
But you could kind of make this nice, about the size of mine back home now. Come on, we gotta learn a little gratitude. This is a heater. I would prefer this personally to living on the street.
It's about the same, really.
It's really about the same because we would have more freedom out there, though.
We wouldn't care if we lost it today. Though.
You wouldn't care?
Nah.
Got
That's
TV,
the only
AC, shower.
The only two things
Locked door.
Yeah, we consider this still homeless.
I mean, I still believe. I want to live in a house
where I could actually go outside and do yard work.
Achieving that from this place is substantially easier than achieving that from the streets.
Not really. It's much easier to do on the streets.
It doesn't have a window factor.
But I would say this is a good transitionary point. Have a place where you can take a shower, freshen up, and then go to work, start saving money, open up a bank account. It has a lot of potential. And then from there, you can eventually have your first latch of security for a place that you actually would like.
We actually want.
Did you get anything that you could use?
Okay, so they're given free housing. They have a bathroom, a shower, AC, kitchen, bed, a door they can lock, and you would think much better than sleeping on a cardboard box out on the street, or under a bridge or something. But they're not satisfied with it. They say that it's no better than being on the street. They want a bigger place with a yard. They won't accept anything less than 3,000 square feet and 5 acres, Meanwhile, if you look at the video, you can see that they've already totally destroyed this place that they were given. It's a disgusting, filthy pigsty, trash everywhere. And this is what you get. People don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. Very few people. We always hear about, let's have an honest conversation about this and that. Well, when are we going to have the honest conversation about homelessness? That's a conversation that very few people want to have. Even though we all kind of know, and it's one of those classic sort of conversations that you have in your living room, but people don't want to say it out loud. But at a certain point, we just have to be real about it. That you give homeless people free housing, and they destroy it, and they complain about it, and they don't want it, and they end up back on the street. This is the way it works. Totally predictable. And by the way, you talk to people that work with the homeless, you talk to people anyone who's tried to help the homeless in any way, everyone has a similar story. I'll never forget, my sister has a story of seeing a homeless person in a parking lot once. And it's just an anecdote, but there's just many, just symptomatic of the larger problem. But didn't want to give cash, because not really excited about the idea of helping someone's drug habit. So she gave, I think it was a homeless woman, she gave the woman a gift card. She went out and she went to just a local takeout place and got a gift card for whatever it was, 20, 30 bucks to go get some food. And the homeless woman complained that she didn't like that restaurant. I mean, they say beggars can't be choosers, but it turns out the beggars very often are choosers, at least in these kinds of cases.
All right, now I kind of want to comment on this too. It's like, with me being on the streets, and I was on the streets for a couple of weeks before the homeless shelter, and it's like, I would have loved that. I would not have said anything. It's how you can tell the true people from the ones that really need it to the ones that are just doing it as a habit, as work, as whatever. Then you got the people, the beggars on the corners of the street that get money. Now, I've heard stuff and I've talked to some of them, and I've seen, they can make up to $200 a day. And a lot of them are already people that have money. They just dress down. And one main thing that I have looked at with them in order to be able to tell is shoes. For whatever reason, a lot of them, if they're still of a nicer orientation, they still don't change their shoes. They still have nice shoes on. And that's how you can tell.
It's if they have nice shoes, they're bigger.
Yeah, usually. Don't get me wrong, somebody could have given them a brand new set of shoes and they're just wearing it. It happens.
Yeah.
But it's not a good chance. And also, if you really want to know before you do it, if you see somebody there every day, what you do is, at the end of the day, follow them for a while. See if they go to a nice fancy car on the corner.
Yeah, remember one time I talked about a weed patch, right?
Yeah.
And I was in the Taco Bell, and it's really shiny, it was a middle grade car, but it was a new car. It was really nice, nothing wrong with it. There was no rust, good tires, everything. And 4 teenagers get out of it. they're dressed like they're homeless or whatever. And one's walking just fine, and then he pulls out some crutches and he goes and he starts like hobbling along, and they took their signs and shit, like stood down there in the corner by a way path.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like,
A lot of them use it for drug
swear to
habits. They
God.
use it as just, like I said, they can afford the $200 a day, depending on where they go.
And of course, then they younger, it's gonna be like the sympathy's gonna be more because like, oh God, you know, how,
You know, and that does make a lot of people not want to help them more and more.
right.
There are some that need it. There are some that will be very grateful and everything else. And it's hard to tell sometimes too. Like I said, just watch them for a while.
Yeah, and use your gut instinct, you know.
Yeah. You know, I would rather help a person who's just trying to get the money for whatever. You know, they've already got money, but they just want more. I would rather help another person that is on the corner that's got a sign that says, "I just want beer."
Yeah,
Telling you the truth on the sign. That's what they're going to buy. I'd rather give them money.
Just being honest.
Yeah, they're being honest telling you. I mean,
And I have done that for a couple of people, and then I find out that no, they were actually looking to buy goods, and they just had a sense of humor, you know.
yeah.
And by having that and then you know saying those sorts of things, it sets them apart, and you're like, okay, well that's even cooler.
Yeah, then you really get to know them. But I mean, a lot of people, like, see, I'm called a long walker. I hitchhike a lot to our towns and everything. And so many people now are so snobby. And, like, they don't want to help anybody. They don't want to pick anybody up. What?
There's no reason for that.
There isn't. I mean, what's happened to this world that we're just so...
I mean, I've been screwed over. I've been jaded. I've had people take things, and now I
Yeah.
just assume that if I give somebody something, that I'm never gonna get it back, that the friendship's gonna end or whatever.
But you still help
I'm still
people.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't understand what's happening.
And it's like, now that I have a vehicle, if I see somebody, I'll give them a ride. But we all live in this world. We all live so bad. We all live so much in a rush. A rush for what? To die?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what you're doing.
Seriously, on camera, you find the one narrow area of camera.
But I mean, that's what we're doing. Is we're trying to go fast. We're mad. We're just doing that to die.
The other thing you hear a lot is, well, nobody helped me. Why should I help you?
And it's like, then be the better person.
Exactly.
Show compassion. Show kindness.
Yeah.
I mean, we got so many neighbors around here that are just like older wannabe has-beens that, you know, oh my God, I work for this. This is mine. I'm not gonna. Well, then guess what? You're gonna die the way you are, alone and pathetic.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, there was the lady they used to work for that they could just
Yeah.
do whatever they wanted to with you. Use you however they wanted to, whenever they wanted to. And if they didn't want to, then they punish you. And, you know, it was like...
Yeah, for sure.
So she's like, fine. You said I don't want to work for you anymore. Fine, I'll do it myself.
And it's like, yeah, now her husband has passed away. And she is. And I haven't seen her vehicle's there for like 2 or 3 days now.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen her for a couple of
I
months.
mean, most likely she's moved out of here right now.
Moved out, or she's gone too now.
I saw her post something on that.
I mean, she might have had to move down to family.
Maybe. But it's like the way
Because she had health issues.
Yeah. But it's like that whole, you know, boss be, I'll just do everything myself rather than having them go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But now look what's happened.
I know.
That's unfortunate. It didn't have to be that way.
No, it didn't. And if people just were to meditate more, and a lot of it is the fast food too.
Right.
So many people are in a rush and just want to get the fastest, quickest way of food.
And
that's not the way to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Do not be consumed by what this government wants in your body.
Because you understand that, like, even if you feel full, but you're not getting those nutrients, you're always hungry.
Exactly.
And you know how I get, like, when I'm hungry. So everybody's always, like, super mad because they're always technically hungry.
Yes.
And they're muddled and everything on top of it because of the chemicals.
That's exactly right.
That's not helpful.
No, it's not. You know, today's lesson, ladies and gentlemen, slow down, enjoy life, laugh more often. That is a big thing.
Give a little bit.
Laughing, giving, don't be selfish. That's what this world is teaching you nowadays, is to be selfish. That's not what it's about.
We're all in this together. You know, nobody's making it out alive.
No.
Except you taken away.
We will all go at some point.
But yeah,
and I've got no problem with it. I know my stance.
Yeah, you know, and we have very little, and we still give more of ourselves than what we have as our resources than many people that I know that are doing well.
Exactly. It's like, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I have my stories. I've done quite a bit wrong. And now I'm trying to fix that in order to be the better person that I'm supposed to be. And that's why I'm saying that I know my stance and I know what I can do. I know where I'm going to go. It's like doing wrong does not solidify what you've done. There's always time to change.
Yeah, right.
The guy that we love watching, Nicholas, he had a really horrid past.
Yeah.
You know, he did a lot of wrong. And he, you know, he goes and talks to people about it, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I did all that.
Did some questionable things
But,
in his youth, you know."
You know, he's like, "I'm changed. I'm going the better route. I'm trying to be the better person, and he's sharing the gospel." Yeah.
Saving people, you know.
That's what life's about. It's about not being selfish, and when you learn that, your life will get better.
And it's true. You don't have to wait till the afterlife to start seeing the benefits of this.
No.
It's like it will happen immediately.
It will.
You know, like how many times have you gone and found money on the ground after you've gone and helped somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Like even if we've been screwed over, like we'll find that exact amount of money somewhere else later on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I gave $20 to somebody and they took off on me and I never saw it again, but then 3 days later, so I got like $40.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it doubles your investment and you get the exact same amount of money back. You got nothing to lose.
You know, I've gotten people that gave me a ride, and they weren't even going that way. They gave me a ride like 2/3 of the way to my house, which is like in the sticks.
Yeah, it's not easy to get.
Not easy to get to, and then they're like, "This is as far as I can take you," and I'm like, "Oh, that's fine, thank you." And then he goes and gives me $50.
Yeah, you know, that's so crazy.
I mean,
or the people that have given you like jackets or like shoes, you know, and it's even for fairly recently, past couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
That's
you say Christmas for wanting to be so that is so fake. That is the fakest thing you can do. Especially for the homeless. Yeah. It's so much that I used to be ridiculous. All the time around this. Yeah. It's like this there. Exactly. Without you. What is the Okay, the homeless one, what we saw was good shirts, like button up, good job interview or something. Yes, that is one of the number one things always. You know, because clothes is a big thing anyway, right? Because I mean, you have like the mission makers go to the shower where you didn't have to stay there. You just come in, and anybody's allowed to sign in. And they have towels there for you. You know, there's some toiletry, which that is another big thing. Yes, women's is a big thing too. Like, you know, any of the hygiene stuff. Yeah. Very much so.
And like you said, socks and stuff.
Oh yeah, socks is a big one. And shoes.
You gotta take care of your feet, especially.
Shoes is another giant.
You don't want to do money.
Because I mean, there were some people that I remember going through the shower line, and I mean, their shoes were so worn, and it's like you couldn't do anything because you didn't have shoes in stock to help them. You know, but their shoes were so worn out that they didn't know what to do. You know, they were going to change their socks out into, socks are like caked to the skin.
Yeah, they get squeezed. there's so many health problems that can arise from bad feet.
Yes, very much so. The feet are the cornerstone to your whole body.
Foot up.
Yes.
Your balance, you know, if you're having like back pain and knee pain and hip pain and everything, it's like look to your feet to make sure that they're aligned and shit.
Exactly.
Yours are not.
No, mine's not, and I've got issues with that too, but
I can find out exactly where she's walked, which ones are his prints, because one goes straight, and the other one is like literally like at a 90-degree angle because his hips are tweaked.
yep. All right, let's see what else Matt has to say about this.
So I've said many times on the show, and I've been mocked for it every time, that you cannot fix homelessness by giving people homes. I know when I say that, it's very easy. What do you mean? They're homeless, Matt. Of course you can fix it by giving them homes. No, you can't. You moron. This is what happens. The problem with homeless people is not that they don't have.
All right, him saying that just kind of reminded me of something that I would happen to be at the mission, and it kept happened to be the thing. It's the problem is these people when they start going into a system that's like the mission, they have no problem going to jail because jail is a safe system that they use, and that's a big problem because you do not want them to start doing that. You do not want them to start falling into those systems because then that becomes dangerous. It becomes a criminal. It's a slippery road.
No one is taking accountability. There's like no money classes. Most people aren't even taught this stuff at a younger age, let alone later in life. And it's like they don't tell you how to be responsible for money, to pay your bills, and how to like save, 10% of this paycheck for that, and 20% of your paycheck for this, or anything like that.
Exactly.
They don't say you have to put this time to go to work, and you have to. They don't teach you that. So like.
And then when you do start doing more, they'll just kick you out anyway.
Right.
Oh, you don't need it.
Right. It's like no transitional.
No.
But so it's like a big.
Because like with there, I was coming to come back home. And I had a job down there. I was working at Walmart, but I didn't have a car to get back and forth. So I would come up and visit with my family for a couple of days. And I'd go back down and I still didn't wish to stay because we weren't at the point of me being back up there full time yet.
Right.
We were working things out, trying to get things in line. And so I go down and I work nights with Walmart. Well, I was trying to say, okay, I need to be here 4 days, and they're like, well, no, you either need to be full time or not at all. And that's what they would say. And it's like, that does not help somebody that needs it the most, trying to transition into the thing. I mean, they want a full commitment or not. And
I mean, who's going to be able to buy a house?
Yeah.
Like, right away.
Exactly. They need to work with them.
Exactly. And it was like, dude, this was
yeah, it wasn't.
So it's like, you think that they would at least give you 3 months.
Exactly. It should.
And then get like first and last month's rent in place and stuff like that,
At this mission, there were some lifers that were there that were pretty much there for most of their life. And they stayed there with that, which missions are not designed for that. They should not have allowed that. They're there for certain periods of time. They want to see you do certain things, get your life on track, and then they get the mission itself to sustain that. Not have these lifers that are there that, want to act like they run everything. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because you start getting that hierarchy, that pecking order. And,
yes.
It's like, that's not right.
No.
Of course, you want to have some people that give you good, sound advice, but these are the ones that are just telling you how to stay in the system. And
exactly.
It's like they were cheating the system the whole time.
Yes. And the Section 8 housing has been good. So if Matt's saying that giving them houses isn't working, it is. But I mean, you're always going to have the people that are like these people. It's never good enough. They think that they're owed more in life. That is the problem.
These people are getting the houses over the people that actually need it because the people that actually need it are actually honest.
Exactly.
And these assholes don't have any problem with money.
Yeah, they don't.
You know, so it's like that's the problem. That's why they're getting the housing.
And they know that they'll get something better if they keep saying it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not happy? Okay, well, let's get you something better.
Yeah.
That's what they know.
Look at how he was given a whole place to stay for free.
Mm-hmm.
But was allowed to drink there, so he screwed that up.
Yeah, he screwed that up. And then he was saying, and the last I knew, he was talking about that had all the issues with alcohol and with cutting his foot over time. That's him. And he ended up, I think the last time I heard, he was in a nursing home down south. Yeah, that's all I heard, and that was years ago. So, I mean,
what a waste. He was the veteran too, right?
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean,
That's a shame.
I've been around a lot of people like this. I've got no problem. That's why I said I want to get to the point where I can go over and talk with these people and maybe try and help connect the bridge to more people getting help. So we can end this whole nonsense.
This is LongWalker's forte. He's really good with humanitarian efforts. I'm not so good at he'll bring the animals and stuff too, but you're way more passionate about this disconnect that's between.
Yes.
It's like having family life and everything, you know.
You know, it's like my brother, he's one that he spits on people. Yeah, you know, he was like, oh, they're below, they're scum. You know, I think all of them are bad, and it's yeah, he will. And I haven't talked to him in years. I won't talk to him. I mean, our son's got a nephew out there, and it's like I've never known him. Because, yeah. Never met. Yeah, okay, sorry. Let's get back to that.
Don't have homes. The lack of homes is not actually the issue. I know it's shocking for some of the dumbest among us to hear that. You know, the homelessness is a symptom. It's a result of the problem. It's not the actual problem. And we know that because when you give them free housing, this is what happens. They destroy it, first of all, and then they're back on the street. Okay, you could give every homeless person in America a free house with 3 square meals a day for free, and we would have zero homelessness in America for about a week. And within 2 weeks, we'd have the same amount that we had before. Okay? And that's obviously the case. It's obvious because in most cases, if a homeless person really wanted to be in a house, they could be. They're not out on the street because they couldn't get a job and they couldn't afford a house. The vast majority of these people are not trying to get jobs or get houses. And when you
Exactly, and it's like this is where I step away from that wall. There are cases where the people are down on their luck, and there's a bigger issue, and they do need that stepping stone. They do need that help. That's where we have to step up and help, because there's that difference. If you got people on that side, it's just, well, if they don't need help, they're below me, you know, and he's almost getting to that point, and that's just not right. That is not the way that we should be.
I think that a lot of it comes down to lack of education or just general IQ, because unfortunately a lot of the people have like lower IQs, and like I said, it's just really hard for them to wrap their head around how to manage their life. They've never been taught that.
Yeah.
And like I said, homeless shelters tell you exactly step by step what to do, when to do it, how to do it, just like prison tells you what to do, how to do it, you know. It's like,
exactly.
Go to bed, get up, you know, we tell you and you do it, and that's easier for people.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and so it's like we have to learn. So there's not enough programs out there teaching people how to live right.
Exactly.
You know? That's like, so it's like to say that these people don't deserve our help because it's like, so they don't deserve our help because they're stupid. Is that what it means? Because that's kind of how it sounds like what you're saying. And so, yeah.
That's the big thing.
I'm a little harsh with people, but I understand what you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this is good.
you see someone on the side of the road, you know, with the change cup, like they're not. This is not someone who's trying every single day and putting in applications and trying to get a job. It's just they're not trying at all. They're really not. They're most likely making basically zero attempt to change their situation. In fact, they're so uninterested in finding housing that, again, if you give them housing, they'll end up back on the street in many, many cases. Why is that? Well, again, this should be obvious. I think it is obvious to almost everyone, whether they say it out loud or not. First of all, many of these people are drug addicts. The vast majority are drug addicts. Okay? I can't say for absolute certain about the two individuals in that video. I don't know. My guess, if I had to guess, I think it's a safe assumption that when they talk about the freedom of being on the street, they're talking about drugs. He means he can do drugs on the street, but he can't do drugs in government housing. Or if he does, he might get kicked out. You know, homeless people are homeless in many, many cases because they've dedicated their whole lives to drugs. And if you give them money, if you be very generous, and you give them even, you know, say you go to a homeless person, you give them $100, because you really want to be generous, you might have just killed that person because they're going to go spend it on drugs and overdose. And they're apathetic at best about their housing situation. And I don't know why people pretend they can't wrap their minds around this sort of thing.
If my throat will allow me, I will relay a story that my grandparents always used to try to tell me when I was younger. And it was like, this story varied over whatever city they happened to be traveling in, right? But she was always like, they looked down on the homeless and everything too. I remember being in Canada and this guy like walked up to us and my grandfather literally just shoved him. And they had this like just really pissed off look and then just like dragged us along and was muttering under his breath about it being just little likes and pieces of shit and all this stuff. And it's like, holy crap, dude. And that guy was so feeble. I'll never forget it. He was even one of the ones that was saying, you know, the end is near. So I had a connection with this.
Yeah.
You know, because that's like, I too had heard this, you know.
For sure.
And he went stumbling backwards over the curb and like just like feet up in the air, lost all of his fucking stuff. And my grandfather did that. So they hated it.
Yeah.
Homeless people. But yet,
what happened to him though?
I was gonna say, yet when he was first starting his company, he would send my mother and my grandmother out to people to talk to them and to kind of hear their story, and then he'd give them like $1,000 a piece, like a few times a year. So I don't know what happened between here and there, but in any case, the story that I was always told was it was always a different city, but it was the same story. My grandma was like, yeah, we tried to give this guy like food, and he's like, oh, I don't want your food, I want the cash and all this stuff, and like threw the food back at them and all this shit. And it's like I don't, in my experience, I don't see them do that. They take the food and
for sure.
anyway, but still want more, you know. But and supposedly he saw them up in the hotel, and she's looking out, and he like flipped them off and everything. I'm like, what the fuck you did?
Well, I mean, but there are low lives that do that.
I know, but it was the same story every city, and it's like, oh my god.
But I'm just saying, I mean, there are ones that do that.
Fair enough, but still.
But more than likely, you're not going to get that.
I mean, I'm assuming also that my grandfather was also really, really protective of us because he had his wife and me. I was only 13 at the time, and this guy like walking up on him in Vancouver. I mean, you've been to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So
for sure, yes.
Like any inside.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's like you know, it's a Tijuana up the north.
Exactly.
But I mean, I will just never forget that. I will never forget the guy was just so shocked and like, broken. You know, and I'm like,
it's like I got a story of one guy too that I knew in the mission, and he stayed at the mission once or twice, I think, but he never could fully do it because he was a lifelong alcoholic. And I've seen him even still to this day without being down in Bakersfield.
You pointed out the other day?
Yeah, Ruben.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen him, you know, on and off and stuff, and he still looks like he's doing pretty good. But I know that he is a very hard alcoholic. You know, just and I mean, you know, that's what leaves him on the streets and stuff. I don't know if he has friends that he's at or what. I mean, he's dressed nice, you know, Mexican guy. Former Mexican guy, really nice guy. Never had an issue with him. I mean, because some of the people, it just is what it is. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah.
And he ended up getting like DUIs and stuff.
Over and over again. Yeah, he was in massage class. Yeah. You know, nice guy, nice kid too. I mean, you know, like he rides and stuff, but we go to events or whatever. It's just like, yeah. Yeah, he did too. If I remember. Yeah, he did. Yes, it was bad. I know. I don't even think you guys finished the course. It was very near the end. I don't know how that worked out, but maybe you know, it's like, right? Yeah. You know, right? This, you know, like, people do it to themselves all the time. It's sad. Yeah, they don't know how to control it. Yeah. I just use it all the time. Yes. The reason behind that is I think that's the other thing too, is they don't have strong shepherds. No, they don't. No, that's what I was gonna say. I have you. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like to see people. It's like needlessly. It's like it's easy to do this. Yes. You know, and then you just don't like to be for you. Exactly. A lot of women are just they are, yes. They think that they are strong and they're the boss of these and they're really not, because they're not doing anything to facilitate the betterness of their partner. Exactly.
That a lot of homeless people really don't actually want homes all that much. These are you know, often not desperate and starving people who are yearning to be housed again. They might be desperate in many ways, but the yearning for the house part doesn't appear to be the case. And again, anyone who's ever worked with homeless people knows this, whether they say it or not. It becomes very obvious. So, what do you do then about homelessness? How do you solve it? Well, you can't solve it completely. That's the first thing we have to just accept. You're not going to solve it. There's not going to be a time when there's no homeless people. But you can address it. It doesn't have to be as bad as it is now. It doesn't have to be like you can't walk down the street in any major city because it's just strewn with homeless people. It doesn't have to be that way. So how do you solve it? Well, if you have the stomach for it. The problem is that our leaders and a lot of people in general just don't have the stomach. They don't have the stomach to deal with these kinds of problems the way that they need to be dealt with. There's really only one way most of the time. And either you're going to do the thing that works, or you're not going to do it because it makes your tummy hurt to think about it, and then the problem is going to continue. So with homelessness, well, first of all, you need to crack down on drugs in a major way, in a way that we, in fact, are not. For all the talk about, oh, the war on drugs has failed. Well, war on drugs. What war on drugs are you talking about? There's no war happening. There should be, but there's not. Okay, I'll know that there's an actual war on drugs when drug traffickers are being arrested and executed. That's a war on drugs. You think we've had a war on drugs? You ain't seen nothing. A war on drugs is you arrest the drug traffickers and you put them on trial and you convict them and then you execute them as mass murderers because that's what they are. So that's step number one. And number two is you have to disincentivize homelessness. And I know that it sounds crazy if you're completely clueless about these things. You think disincentivize? There are no incentives to be homeless. What do you mean? No one's choosing to be homeless. Yeah, they are. You just heard it. You just heard it from two people who said that they'd kind of prefer to be on the street. How do you disincentivize it? Well, you take away the freedom that he's talking about. He likes the freedom of being homeless. And what he probably means, is that as a homeless person, he can set up a camp wherever he wants, and there's no expectation of him at all, and he can do drugs openly anytime he wants. You take that away. You take that freedom away. You crack down on the drugs. You crack down on the homeless camps. You start arresting people who are doing drugs openly. You arrest them. People that set up camps on sidewalks that should not be allowed. The people that do that, you arrest them. You ban this kind of behavior. You strongly disincentivize it. You crack down on the drugs. Real, serious, ugly consequences for the people that are pushing this poison into our communities. That's what you do. And if you're not willing to do that, then you are not serious about solving this problem or helping these kinds of people. And I don't want to hear anything. I just don't want to hear it anymore from people that talk about their deep compassion for people like that. You have no compassion. You, in fact, are indifferent to them. You see them as like little puppy dogs. You don't even see them as people, because you're not willing to do the things that would actually require to help people like that. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In 2025, an estimated 511,399 people in California
All right, we're going to finish up with this one. And I just wanted to say with the Matt Walsh, I agree with that. This country does not have a war on drugs. Being harsh is the key to winning the drug war. And it's also my biggest thing is cracking down on our own government. Yeah. As far as our government goes with it, they are making millions of dollars off of the street drugs that are being sold. Off of the drugs in the pharmacies that are being sold. They're making money.
Yeah, that's like, they start with like the narcotics that they prescribe you, and then they take those away.
Yes.
And then they go to heroin and fentanyl on the street,
So, the drug traffickers, okay, let's start with the government. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the top officials there that know this is going on and let's drag them out. Let's have them executed. Then you'll start seeing results.
Make an example of them,
That is the biggest thing to take away from that. All right, so let's finish this one up and see where we are.
We're experiencing homelessness, according to the latest numbers from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. That's a sharp increase from 2024, when the homeless population was 381,399. A troubling 34% jump in just 1 year. This rise highlights some of the deep-rooted social and economic challenges the state is facing. To put it in perspective, California is home to just about 12% of the U.S. population, but it accounts for a staggering 30% of the nation's homeless. That gives the state one of the highest per capita homelessness rates in the country. Even more alarming, over 318,000 people are living unsheltered, sleeping on sidewalks, in tents, cars, or makeshift camps. That's more than 2/3 of California's homeless population, a harsh reality that far too many are forced to face every night. And it's not just adults. According to Kids data, more than 199,000 public school students in California experienced homelessness during the 2022-23 school year. That's about 4.3% of all enrolled students. Children who are trying to learn and grow without the stability of a home. So what caused this sudden surge in homelessness? One of the major factors was a devastating wildfire that tore through Los Angeles. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed and thousands of families were forced to flee their homes. But the fire was only the beginning. In the aftermath, some landlords and property owners saw an opportunity to profit from the crisis. Rent prices shot up by as much as 124%. And hotel rates doubled nearly overnight. This price gouging pushed more families over the edge. Many were forced to leave Los Angeles in search of more affordable areas in California. But this mass migration put intense pressure on housing markets in other cities, driving up prices across the board. Working class families and lower middle class households, already struggling to make ends meet, were hit hardest. As rents rose and housing options disappeared, many found themselves out on the streets.
We left everything. We have just whatever we're wearing. We're wearing the same thing for the last 2 days.
The cost of homelessness in California. California has poured billions into fighting homelessness, but
And that's one of the things that gets me too, ladies and gentlemen, is we classify parents as being bad parents if they do not, like if something happens within their life and they end up on the streets, instead of just saying, let's help you out, let's do what we can. No, it's, oh, I'm gonna call CPS on you because you're a bad parent. You're not giving the board and room that you're supposed to this child. You're not, see, we're a society of blaming. And that's all it's turning into. Let's blame it all. It's the same with the LGBTQ, whole, what do you call it, woke agenda. It's the same thing. It's let's, blame everybody else and not take accountability. It's getting old and it's getting ridiculous.
And like with homeless families, it's like, okay, I understand if you have somebody who is like this for like ever. Like they're in and out of having a home or not having a home, and or they're having multiple kids, multiple different baby daddies and stuff like that.
Yes.
Then yeah, pass some judgment, be a little bit harsh, and be like, okay, enough is enough.
Yes.
But they're going after people that have just lost their house like 3 months ago.
And the fires.
Yeah, and then
that's what you're talking about too. It's the fires.
Then taking away their freaking kids and stuff.
Yeah.
On top of it, it's like, why do you not have compassion to help these people? Like actually help them.
Exactly. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to the compassion in this country is lost.
They pretend, especially the Democrats, they like to pretend that they have a lot of compassion because they're always talking about like illegal immigrants and all of that. But it's like not one of us are going to let them come into their house.
Exactly.
They're not out there paying for meals. They're not out there, helping out teach people.
And when it comes to the illegal immigrants, I'm sorry. Why should they get to come here and benefit for everything when you've got, like, if the Filipinos, their process is so much harder, but they'll do it. They'll do it to become an actual citizen of this country.
I heard them start like at the age of 14 or 15 years old.
But yet, these Mexicans you guys are just bigots because, not letting us come in. Go through the process, just like everybody else. Become a citizen.
It's not even just the Mexicans. You have people that are like Haitian. You have people that are like
I know
Chinese. Almost people that are like I'm not gonna say Palestinian because they're not. They're like Hamas. They're like Hezbollah. Militants. They're coming across the border.
Yes.
It's so easy to get into Mexico. So it's so easy for Mexico to have access to that.
Exactly. I mean, you get it all.
But is it working? Over the past few years, the state has made significant financial commitments. The 2024-2025 budget alone set aside over $7 billion for housing and homelessness initiatives. A big focus of this funding is permanent supportive housing, a model that pairs long-term housing with services like mental health care, addiction treatment, and job support. That does sound promising, but let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture. Back in 2022-2023, California set aside a staggering $6.2 billion to combat homelessness. At that time, the state had about 341,000 unhoused people. Fast forward to 2025, and despite that massive investment, the number has climbed to an estimated 511,399. So the big question is, how can we be spending more and still seeing more people on the streets? Between 2018 and 2022, California spent around $16.6 billion on homelessness programs, according to the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. Yet, visible progress has been limited. Encampments still line streets in major cities. Shelters are often full, and many people continue to fall through the cracks of an overwhelmed system. Doing nothing isn't free either. Experts estimate that ending homelessness in California by 2035 will require an investment of $110 billion over 12 years. That's about $9.1 billion per year, just a bit more than what's already being spent. But reaching that goal would take strong political cooperation, accountability, and smarter strategies for funding and implementation. Since 2020, California has spent a staggering $23.5 billion in an effort to fight homelessness. By 2024, $20.6 billion has been earmarked, with nearly $6.8 billion going directly to local governments. One major initiative, Project Home Key, received $4.8 billion to help cities and counties create more permanent housing by converting hotels and motels. As public frustration grows, questions are being asked about where the money is going and why so little seems to be changing. Many nonprofit organizations receive generous funding from both the government and private donors. Their mission centered on providing shelter, food, and services to those experiencing homelessness. Yet, investigative reports and audits have revealed that some of these groups are not operating as intended. Mismanagement, inflated executive salaries, and lack of transparency have plagued several prominent nonprofits, leading to
Okay.
So this is my problem with any kind of quote unquote non-profit. If it's a 503 or whatever it is, it's a meager amount of what you are donating, people are donating, is going to the sources that they're supposed to be going to.
Exactly.
Like the ASPCA, the guy has like a private jet, and
Yep.
the Salvation Army CEO makes a shit ton of like billions of dollars. So it's like that shouldn't be happening.
No.
So the only way to combat this is to get involved yourself. Of course, you can't like take on like a whole giant thing yourself, but like one or two people, you can make a big difference.
Yes.
Like,
and that's where it starts, because maybe then those people get it going, they'll go and do it to more people. And then you get this chain going. Everybody does it. We can help everybody out.
But then again, this is California, where they require you to have a license to practically breathe.
Yeah, they do.
So it's like they probably would come free for that. There's really nothing that they can do. You are just out of your own.
Oh, and I mean, what's happened? Okay, I have talked about this in several things, and we talked about it in general as a family. What has happened with this world where they're not going to sit on their beliefs? Right. Jesus was willing to die on the cross for all these people, and it used to be that for a lot of the people back then. But now we live in a world where we want to sit down and shut up and not speak our voices. I mean, yeah, we've got the woke piece. Yeah, they're doing it all wrong.
They're just running around in circles.
Yeah. But what happened to stepping up and actually making a difference?
I think, to be fair with them, even they are sure of their convictions because they will say it. They will say outright, they're like, oh, whatever, whatever.
Or whatever they want, they identify as.
Can I be? Yeah, I guess if you want to, then
yeah.
Willing to.
The definition is a clear-cut answer. That's not a clear-cut answer.
Yeah. It's like, I'm embarrassed and you are mine. What is your definition? What hell do you want? You want yeah, we used to die for the convictions, and now people don't even want to slap on the wrist. They don't want to be talked to. They want to fight. It's like when they were trying to do the fire fees out here.
And yeah, that was a joke.
I already paid money taxes for them. And so they're $25 and $50 more every year. For what?
Yeah.
And it was like I donated personally to fire departments and stuff. That's just what I did. I did every year. So I did private donations. Why the hell did they need $125? It didn't go to our local.
No.
Right up to Sacramento.
Well, and again, it's exactly what the 501, whatever
the like nonprofits.
Yeah, the nonprofits
too. And
the
so,
higher ups.
I think they tried that shit for about 6 years, and I never paid one time.
Nope.
Not once.
We won't.
They would be like, well, you can protest this, but you have to pay it first. And then
yeah, it's like, no, I'm not paying it.
And then if we find out that your protest is valid, then we'll send you the money back. That's not how a protest works.
Oh.
Did you not read about the Revolutionary War? I mean,
yeah.
That's how protest works. You just
and in this country, we have every right as a citizen
To not participate.
To not participate, yes.
It's like we say Caesar's world is out there beyond our gates. I'll always follow Caesar's laws outside of my own gates. Here, though, this is the thing. This is ours.
Yeah,
You know?
we bought this property.
Right. And we live our life according to what our ancestors did. That is the American dream. The American dream is different for every freaking American.
Exactly.
Our American dream is to be left the hell alone, to live as our ancestors dictated. You know?
That's exactly right.
I would draw the line on a community that would be like marrying off children or doing like animal fighting or something like that, because that's just immoral as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But aside from that, with like nobody's getting hurt, nobody's suffering, live your life. You know, don't break it out into Caesar's world.
Don't.
You know, it's like you want to be trans over there. You know, don't bring it over here. Don't make us work.
Exactly.
But, you know, it's like this is your land, it's yours to defend.
No, it is. That's exactly right.
I mean, the biggest shock of my life being when the cops were walking over my name.
I know. That's a big thing.
Nothing wrong. Yeah. I think that this is the one safe place that I can have for my family, and they jump up and so that shattered me. You know, and it's like I think about that to this day.
It's ridiculous.
But I'm a weird of the government, especially the higher up government. You know, if Trump is right to their gate himself is going to stop.
Yeah.
It's like that's not gonna happen.
Government Trump would have any issue with what we're doing.
No, it's true.
He'd be like, okay, whatever.
It's like it's so what the president said or what it was. You're gonna do what you feel is right to do. If you're afraid that you're gonna go to jail or you're gonna get fined, then you're not sure of your convictions.
Exactly. And being sure of your convictions is what it's all about.
Yeah, you gotta live with faith. Yeah. I have faith in what protected in this far.
Yeah, we have it.
To millions being spent without measurable outcomes. In some cases, funds are diverted from essential services to cover administrative costs or are lost entirely in fraudulent schemes. The most homeless cities in California. A closer look at Los Angeles in 2025. Homelessness in California has reached crisis levels. And nowhere is this more visible than in Los Angeles. In 2025, the city saw a shocking 35% increase in its homeless population, bringing the total to around 195,000 people. That's a 59% rise since 2013. What was once seen as an issue limited to certain neighborhoods is now woven into the fabric of everyday life across the city. According to the Greater Los Angeles Homeless Count conducted in 2023 by the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, an estimated 131,000 people were without shelter on any given night in Los Angeles County. And the number keeps growing each year. The crisis is no longer something that can be ignored. It's visible in every corner of the city, from sidewalks to freeway underpasses. One of the most troubling trends is the rise in chronic homelessness. People who have been unhoused for an extended period of time. As of 2024, nearly 48,800 individuals fall into this category in LA County. This represents a steep climb from just a few years ago, and it shows how deeply rooted the problem has become. Children are also feeling the impact. Nearly 30,000 children in Los Angeles experience homelessness at some point during the year. These young lives are growing up in extreme instability, with limited access to consistent education, healthcare, and basic needs. The long-term consequences of childhood homelessness can be devastating, emotionally, socially, and economically. Another layer to the crisis is the growing number of undocumented immigrants and refugees living in Los Angeles. In 2023, the county was home to an estimated 839,700 undocumented individuals. Many of them live in a state of uncertainty, without access to formal employment, affordable housing, or public services. Their vulnerability often leads them straight into homelessness, as they struggle to survive without a support system. Compounding the issue is a rise in crime, gang activity, and a public infrastructure that is stretched far beyond its limits. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Public transit is unreliable. Emergency services are underfunded. The result is a city teetering on the edge, socially, economically, and emotionally. With a population nearing 10 million, Los
You're up.
I gotta look it up too, but I don't remember the name of this little bug that's been an outbreak down there. It starts with a T. Typhus or something. No, typhus.
Typhus?
There's a pandemic of typhus going around the homeless communities that she hasn't been seen for 300 years.
I know. That's crazy.
No, it's like, so you have this shit spread rapidly because the hygiene is so bad because you don't have like proper medications to control this.
Yes.
It is literally only a matter of time before the general populace is like affected as well.
Exactly.
You all go to the same hospitals. You all go to the same stores.
Like I said, Baker's people had people that had dogs.
Yeah, I can only imagine it. I remember when you were staying down there, you had like this necessity to like talk.
Oh yeah, because they all had that. They cough.
I call it kennel cough. I don't know what it is for humans, but you know, it's like the same thing. Yeah, they call it. It never went away. So I know. Like, I can't imagine. Like, it's only a matter of time before it goes speaking into the journey. So, you know, like, I mean, this shit's happened before. Yes. You know, so why they don't want them to have their own little community locked off away from them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's nice. That's like pirate ass, like, related disease. It's like they have an outbreak. It's crazy. That's like, yeah, we can get over it. Okay. So, yeah. I think it's also transmitted by fleas.
That's crazy.
Rats.
Yeah.
And then they go into regular populated areas. They go to parks. They have children. They get around food.
Yeah. And there you have it. That's how it spreads.
My ancestors had stayed in the city.
I know.
That's
I mean, that's what my boss and I were talking about today too. It's like he never lived down there again. He said he never lived in the city. He always lived on the outskirts.
It's enough though.
And he said he couldn't even do that again.
It's great.
He loves the mountains too much to get away from it.
You have the looming threat of the big earthquake all the time.
Yeah. Mudslides there.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have fires, but yeah, mudslides and stuff.
Yeah.
Just stay out of the city. There was a reason that we were not supposed to live in the city.
Exactly.
Back in the day, like, you know, a couple thousand years ago, only the poor people lived in the city.
Yeah.
You know, if you were rich, you stayed out of the city. So it was just like dock workers and stuff that worked in the city.
Exactly.
Need the charger.
Yeah, I'm gonna need the charger to 8%.
Okay, go ahead and start talking.
Los Angeles also ranks among the worst in the country for income inequality. About 17.6% of residents live below the poverty line, and many others are just one paycheck away from losing everything. Rents are skyrocketing. Affordable housing is disappearing. And the working class, people with jobs who still can't make ends meet, are being priced out of their own neighborhoods. The housing market in Los Angeles has turned into a battlefield. The average cost of a home is now around $1 million, far beyond the reach of most residents. Even renting is no longer a feasible option for many. As housing becomes less affordable, people are left with impossible choices: stay and struggle to survive, or leave behind everything they know in search of something more sustainable. And it's not just the unemployed or those dealing with addiction who end up on the streets. Many of LA's homeless once had stable jobs, homes, and families. They were teachers, business owners, engineers. Some even held master's or doctorate degrees. But rising costs, stagnant wages, and a crumbling social safety net have pushed them over the edge. In a state as wealthy and innovative as California, the level of homelessness we're seeing, especially in cities like Los Angeles, is not just a failure of policy, but a humanitarian crisis. It's going to take more than temporary shelters and quick fixes to turn things around. It will require bold changes in housing policy, mental health support, economic opportunity, and how we define community care. If things continue on this path, the question isn't just how we fix the problem, but whether we'll act in time to prevent a complete collapse of the city's social fabric. Demographics of homelessness in California. Homelessness in California is a complex issue that affects people from all walks of life, but some communities are hit much harder than others. Take Black Californians, for example. They make up only about 5% of the state's population, but they represent more than 25% of the people who turned to homeless services during the 2023 to 2025 fiscal year. That's a huge and troubling gap, showing how racial disparities continue to play a major role in who ends up without a place to live. Ladings Californians are also facing an alarming rise in homelessness. From 2020 to 2022, the number of unhoused Ladings individuals increased by a staggering 22%. For comparison, the overall homeless population only grew by about 6.2% during that time. According to the 2023 point-in-time count, nearly 44% of people experiencing homelessness in California identified as Ladings. That's nearly half, a powerful sign that this community is deeply impacted. On the flip side, white and Asian American Californians are underrepresented among the homeless population. Current data suggests that white Californians make up about 20% of the state's homeless, a number much lower than their overall share of the population. When it comes to who is experiencing homelessness, the majority are single adults. In fact, about 80% of the homeless population falls into this category. Families with children make up around 14%, which still represents thousands of kids growing up without stable housing. The rest, about 7%, are young people experiencing homelessness on their own. These unaccompanied youth often face even more danger and instability without the support of family or a consistent place to stay. Age also plays a major role in California's homelessness crisis. More than 40% of homeless individuals living in adult-only households are over the age of 50. These are older adults who may have worked for decades, but still found themselves without a home due to rising costs, health issues, or financial emergencies. Many of them face the added challenge of aging without access to health care, retirement income, or strong support networks. Can California end its homeless crisis by 2035? California, home to one of the world's largest economies and some of its wealthiest individuals, also bears the weight of one of the most visible and complex homeless crises in the United States. With over 511,399 people experiencing homelessness as of recent counts, the Golden State finds itself at the crossroads of political pressure, economic disparity, and human suffering. In response, some lawmakers and city officials have proposed a two-pronged strategy: enforce stricter anti-homeless laws while pouring billions of dollars into housing and support services. But can this combination truly end homelessness in California by 2035? The idea of criminalizing homelessness has long been debated. Laws that ban encampments, prohibit sleeping in public spaces, or restrict panhandling are often framed as necessary steps to reclaim public order and safety. Proponents argue that such laws can push individuals towards shelters or services and prevent public spaces from becoming entrenched camps. However, critics point out that these laws do not address the root causes of homelessness. Instead, they may lead to costly cycles of arrests, fines, and displacement, all while doing little to get people off the streets permanently. Furthermore, these policies often punish poverty rather than alleviate it. On the other hand, the commitment to invest billions of dollars in housing and services offers a more hopeful path. Research consistently shows that providing stable, supportive housing, often referred to as housing first, is one of the most effective solutions. It not only helps individuals stabilize their lives, but also reduces long-term public costs in healthcare, emergency services, and the criminal justice system. California has already committed significant funds in this direction, but progress has been uneven. Bureaucratic red tape, local opposition to new housing developments, commonly known as NIMBYism, and a lack of coordination across cities and counties have all hindered the impact of these investments. For California to realistically end homelessness by 2035, it must go beyond binary approaches. Laws alone won't solve the crisis. Neither will money if it's not used efficiently. The state must streamline its housing development process, expand mental health and addiction services, and focus on preventative measures such as tenant protections and rent assistance. Coordinated efforts between state and local governments, with accountability and transparency, are crucial. It will also require a cultural shift from seeing homelessness as an eyesore to understanding it as a human emergency deserving compassion and systemic action. Ending homelessness in a state as vast and diverse as California is a monumental challenge. The timeline of 2035 is ambitious, and whether it's achievable depends not just on legislation or spending, but on the political will, public support, and sustained effort over time. Anti-homeless laws may offer short-term optics and billion-dollar budgets sound impressive, but the real test lies in thoughtful execution, equity, and an unwavering focus on human dignity.
That was a very good ending to that one. But my special thanks go right now too. But that, that video goes into detail was a lot. Yes.
And I mean, it depends on the program, but you usually can't trust the program either. So.
No, because I'll be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go do that. We're gonna go help them, and then sneak all that money in the backside, and then we can't help all money.
Yeah, there's no reason that, like I said, you guys weren't getting like socks, shoes, and stuff like that at the mission.
I know.
The CEO of this company says like billions of dollars. That just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
You should also be suffering alongside, I mean, it's like
exactly. Yes.
Interesting.
I mean, there's a lot that it could be done. I mean, it's very doable. It's very workable. Just one step at a time, one person at a time. Everybody's different. Check their needs, check what they need, and go from there. Yeah, maybe jail is just a place for them. No, I mean, it is. I've seen it.
Maybe make another program in jail that's not quite as bad as regular jail.
Yeah.
Like a housing treating or something, but you just know that these people are never
put in there.
Again, I guess it's a concentration camp.
I feel like never that concentration camp.
Every time that it's not possible.
Yep. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and it was an hour 45 minutes. It's pretty good for my live stream. So, namaste. I hope everybody has a good day. LongWalker out.